if you're willing to make yourself uncomfortable physically or emotionally, whether it's telling someone you love them or going after a job or attempting something that other people would think is fucking crazy, if you're willing to be uncomfortable, you will hit that blissful state in life where you're going to look back and you're either going to have like this fuck you attitude, which is cool to have sometimes, and you're going to feel like you've accomplished a lot in spite of people telling you not, or you're just going to look back and be so glad that you've tried. Because I don't think there's anything worse than looking back and wishing you had done something.
What's up, my friends? Welcome to the You Are the Rockstar Show. This is episode 19, Woody and the Captain. I'm stoked on this one. A friend of mine named Kyle Creek, epic author, he reached out to me recently being like, yo, let's do a podcast. And I was like, hell yeah, bro, let's go. So we got on here and had a really organic conversation just about life, dealing with all the life's what the fucks is the way that he phrases it with his book that just came out called Speech Therapy. I got the book the other day. He sent it to me and I've been just diving into it, and it is awesome. It is a quick read. You can just jump around if you'd like to. Nothing's really that long. It's like you're just getting quick hits of inspiration. So highly recommend checking that book out on Amazon, Speech Therapy. It's awesome. So enjoy this conversation. It was really organic, super fun. We talk a lot about the things that I normally discuss, but we go a little bit more in depth into his life and how he overcame depression, how he's dealt with setbacks and wanting to kill himself, and at times expressing through writing to essentially dig himself out and allow, the way I look at it, to let his soul breathe. And I think we can all get value from that in hearing his story, because it's a really badass one and he's a really badass dude. So thank you for taking the time to be here. I hope you enjoy.
Dude, I think so much of life is surrendering. And I come from a background of being very religious. I was raised Mormon. I was raised LDS in Utah. And so when I became a teenager, I rebelled very hard against my upbringing. I wanted nothing to do with religion. I wanted nothing to do with God or anything outside of myself. And so I had this time period where the word surrender, the word, universe just irked me. And I was so against anything that was divine or higher power or wasn't of my own doing. I was so convinced that everything in my life was going to come by my own hand. And it was great for a while. I think I propelled myself very far with kind of my rebellion against my upbringing. But you get to a point as you get older that you realize it's a major crutch. I'm still not religious by any means. I don't have any affinity to like any organized religion, but understanding just the connectiveness of the world and opening myself up to energy connections and opening myself up to, like you're saying, surrendering and kind of allowing life to take its course has dramatically improved my life in the sense that I think my work's gotten better, but I'm a happier person. My relationships are deeper. And then coming from, the hustle and bustle of New York, where I felt like that was the pinnacle of my success as a writer, I've actually been more successful since I've let go of a lot of my control and been open to the possibilities of these connections I can have and others helping me. My career has skyrocketed because of that. And when I first started doing it, I was convinced that my career was going to fall off and it was like game over. I don't know if you were following me back in 2019, but I had like a real breakdown. I had just moved from New York City to LA, and I thought I was going to come to LA and just kind of shit on everything like I had in New York. And I came to LA with a big ego, and I had a lot of really good connections in LA, and I thought I was just going to come to LA and run things. And it just didn't work out that way. Life just kept giving me obstacles and kept testing me, and I kept pushing against the grain. And I fell into a really deep depression. I got very suicidal at times. I had, a lot of rumination on some pretty dark thoughts. And it was kind of stuff that I've been dealing with for 3 or 4 years at the time, but I hid it very well through my lifestyle, and I would just bury myself in my work. And a lot of my writing was kind of reflective of what I was feeling at the time and how I felt I could communicate that to someone who else was going through it. So I think people, if they'd followed me for a couple of years, could pick up on it maybe. But I had this big crash in 2019 where I bailed from social media for over a month, and I just went stone cold sober for 100 plus days, and I did nothing but exercise, eat healthy, go to a therapist, meditate, all this stuff that I was so closed off to. Like the idea of meditation to me at the time, I thought it was just fucking asinine. But I opened myself up to meditation. I was doing sound baths. I went and did like those sensory deprivation pods. And I did all of this stuff to just try and like rewire why I was so unhappy with a lifestyle that a lot of people probably thought was awesome. And I came out of that, got my dog, and I felt like I was getting my life back on track, and I was really happy with things. My girlfriend and I got back together. We'd actually broken up for 6 months because I was just such a basket case. And then quarantine, and then 2020 hit, and I lost like I lost like everything I had just gained as far as like new work coming my way, or like my desire to achieve certain things. And then I had to kind of do it all over again through quarantine, where I was just forced to revisit myself and sit with myself like everyone else was. And I feel like it was kind of just like, I don't know, you know, they describe the hero's journey where you feel like you've overcome something, then like life's going to check you and make sure you really have. And so the first, 6 months of quarantine kicked my ass all over again. I went back into a really bad depression. But this time, you know, I had a lot of responsibility. Then I ended up finding out my girlfriend was pregnant towards the tail end of that. And it made like the first couple months of that pregnancy really hard too, because I still wasn't like fully ready to be a dad, or I feel like I had my own shit to work out. But I kind of leaned into it online. Like you're talking about vulnerability. I used it as an opportunity to understand that I'm probably not the only one who's feeling that way, going through those things at that time. And I'm certainly not the only person who's gonna feel that way. And so I opened up about it on social media and started writing a lot more in depth. You know, prior to this, I only referred to myself online as the captain. Everything I had online was the captain. No one knew my real name unless you got a little, you know, you got creepy online and did some digging. But that's when I changed like my handles to Kyle Creek, aka the captain, and I embraced, you know, being like first and foremost, I am a person like you. I'm not this personality. Yeah, my work is meant to entertain, but really my work is meant to kind of help people find understanding and help find that connectedness that we all have. And so when I did that at the time, it was super scary. I thought like, oh man, like there's going to be some weirdos taking advantage of all this stuff I'm putting out there because I'm putting out way too much private info. Mm. But, you know, going back to what I said, like that's when I felt like my career got really good. And that's when I felt like my writing got really good. And I had my agent recently say to me, she released my history book for me. And then she was reading this new book I released. And she called me and said, Kyle, you know, this is the best I could have hoped for you, because your last book was good, but your last book was you entertaining. She's like, this book is you like actually connecting with people. And she was really, she was excited to release it. I chose to self-publish it. I didn't want to go through a publisher again. So I think I kind of upset her in that regard, because I know she wanted to kind of shop around, see if a publisher wanted it, but I felt the need to self-publish. I felt the need to take a bet on myself. But now I'm just getting off on a tangent talking too much. So I feel free to grill me.
I love it. I love it. I was just, so do you feel like speech therapy, which is your most recent book, is a really epic reflection of kind of the self-work that you did over the course of 2020 and like lockdown?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I feel like speech therapy was more of a reflection of not just 2020, but the years prior to that. The chapters seem very happenstance and kind of goofy in some regard, but that's again me still retaining that bit of entertaining value, so people can read the concepts in there and be entertained enough to get through the meat of it. I think a lot of self-help books turn people off because they're just too much.
Totally.
I've read a lot of them. I've read a lot of them that are fantastic. I've read a lot that are really good snippets, but I've read some that even though I agree with them, they're just so much weight to the book. It turns me off from wanting to finish it. And so I wanted to write a book that was very relatable in the sense that we all have these moments that kind of fuck up our days, whether you wake up and you lose your keys, or I mean, just last week I woke up, my dog had eaten an avocado in the backyard, which gave him like terrible diarrhea. So I woke up, my dog had shit all over the rug in the middle of the night. And I got a great Dane. So that's not a little mess. And oddly enough, a month before I had just finished my book and I wrote a chapter about your dog shitting on your rug as something like people deal with that could totally ruin your day. And so I feel like I might have manifested that situation into my life because I was so intently focused on the book. But there's like a there's a way to approach those situations that is going to make them worse. There's a way to approach them that's going to not not all automatically make them better, but there's a way to approach them that's going to prevent them from compiling and destroying your day. And so I think a lot of that kind of thinking is work I did in 2020, where it was very easy that year to have stuff derail you entirely. I had days where I just had to stay off social media, or even like weeks, because I could read one story or see just like the reverb chamber of just negative, 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 and it would just completely fuck me up to where I couldn't do what I needed to do that day. So I think it's kind of a combination of the 2020 reflectiveness, but also just everything the years prior that I kind of felt like I either had clever ways of getting over or had to just learn like a difficult lesson of how to approach that situation in the future.
So smart. And do you feel like writing for you was like a technique or a tool to climb your way out of a depressive energy?
I feel like writing isn't a tool. I feel like writing is probably, the most paramount thing I have in my life to get through that. It's not like a tool in my arsenal. It's like, it's the golden ticket, as they would say, to help me get to a better place. When I first started wanting to write for a living was probably when I was in college. I grew up, my mom was kind of an editor. She was an English major. She edited a couple books here and there. My dad was an artist. And so my parents actually did a couple children's books together. So I grew up around writing. I grew up around artistic expression, but I wanted to be a pro athlete. I wanted to play sports. I'm 6'6". I was kind of large for my age. And so everyone pushed me into sports. I ended up having a full ride scholarship in football coming out of high school.
What position?
And I was a defensive end. But the thing is, I fucking hated sports. I never liked sports. It was something I did because it was expected of me, but also because in high school it allowed me to fit in, or it allowed me to have a little bit of clout because I was on the football team. I'd never liked sports. It was never something I did. And when I got to college, sports are your life. If you're a collegiate athlete, you have to live and breathe that sport. And I realized how much I disliked it at the time. And I chose partying and drugs over sports. And I ended up dropping out of college and returning to a community college later on. But I dropped out of that school. But in that school, I had some writing courses, and those are the only classes I went to. And I realized I enjoyed writing. I realized I liked storytelling. So to kind of bring it back to what you're saying, when I started to enjoy storytelling, I started to actually enjoy the bad things that happened in my life because it was an opportunity to create something from it. And so when really obnoxious things would happen to me, or I would fuck up and do something really stupid, I almost kind of relished it, because I would be like, oh, cool, this is like, oh, okay, what can I do with this? Like, this is a unique experience. And it became therapeutic for me. But then my friends would also, I like share something with them and they'd gravitate towards it, and they'd be like, damn, that's actually a really good perspective. And so that's when I decided I wanted to be a writer. It just took me a long time to be the writer I wanted to be. I started writing for like local magazines. I spent a lot of years writing and advertising because, as a writer, if you can get an advertising job, there's good money in that. But that's a whole different wormhole to go down, especially watching what's happened with the media and advertising the past year and a half or 2 years. I have a lot of disdain for a lot of my former colleagues, but I spent a lot of time in that realm. But even then, like, I would take situations that happened in my life and I'd write them into TV scripts. I was writing commercials for clients, and I'd take something like in my dating life that was funny or awkward, and I'd find a way to turn that into a script for like a commercial selling furniture. And I loved writing as that vessel to like help me deal with everything. And for years, I used to brag to people, nothing can upset me, because everything that happens to me, I'll make a funny tweet out of it. I'll make a funny post out of it. I'll write a script, and then it's just awesome. It happened. And I was like that for a long time until my breakdown of 2019 and the first part of 2020 is when I lost sight of turning negatives into a positive through writing. And I was like contemplating, like, I didn't want to write another book. I was like kind of like done writing. I was like, fuck, man, I had my ship sailed. Maybe like I'm just done writing. I had a real hard time trying to find my love for it again.
Respect. I think so many people can resonate with going into that dark place and just trying like that. That's why I enjoy asking kind of what your, I mean, you might not consider it a tool, but like what your modalities are to climb out of the hole or use a flashlight in the darkness. And I know a lot of people that follow me and listen to the show are people who have struggled with mental health from time to time, as I have as well. And
Yeah.
for me personally, what I feel like super called to just reflect back is a similar concept I wrote about in my book, which was just this flipping from victim to victor. But I framed it in regards to why me, try me mindset, because I found myself multiple times in my life asking, why is this happening to me? And it wasn't until I made that shift to say, you know what, try me, whether it's the dog shitting on the carpet in the middle of the night, or it's me feeling like the world's just like weighing heavy on me. It's that shift that kind of gives you a little bit of a chip on your shoulder so that it helps us persevere and then do stuff we might not normally do. And a lot of times the stuff that comes out of that is at a high level because other people relate to that experience, you know?
Oh, absolutely. And what you're talking about, the try me, even something like your dog shitting on your rug, once you've weathered that storm, which trust me, with a Great Dane, it was a storm. Once you've weathered that storm, any morning that starts without a dog shitting on your rug is easy.
I love that.
And so now every morning I wake up and my dog didn't shit on the rug. I'm like, this morning's fucking cake.
Good day, babe.
And that's become my mentality for a lot of things now. Especially, this recent book, I wrote that book with a newborn son, moving across the country. I had to fly back and forth multiple times for work. I had to drive a moving truck across the country. I had to drive my dog across the country. Like I had so many obstacles dragging my time, my energy, but I still find the time to write every night because I told myself I was going to work on it every night. And then the days where I didn't have things my way, they just felt so simple. But there are days that even like years ago might have been difficult for me. That's like, damn, like this is so cake after trying yourself or testing yourself with the stuff that comes your way. And I was telling a buddy the other day, I actually feel like becoming a father has made me more productive because it's made me realize how much I can accomplish in a day. Like the fact I can still get my workload done or what I want to write done in between caring for my son, walking my dog, feeding the cats, whatever other obstacles I got to do right now, with the move I've been dealing with the past couple months, every day just feels so cake that doesn't have some of those in the way.
Love that. It's kind of like that mentality of what's next and just like, let's go. What's next? Like,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And like, I recently did this fitness challenge. Well, it's not a challenge. It's kind of like a program you do. It's called 75 Hard. I don't know if you've heard of it. But for 75 days, you work out twice a day. You have to read 10 pages, drink a gallon of water, stick to a diet, no matter what that diet is, but it can't be a diet that includes any sweets, and you can't have any alcohol. Cool. For 75 days straight. So it's like no cheat meals, no days off. And towards the end of that challenge, I started getting bored because things were getting too easy. And so I would purposely go run in a rainstorm because it felt hard. It was harder than if I ran in the morning when the weather was clear. I'd be like, oh, it's going to rain around 3. I'll wait and do my workout at 3 just to run in the rain because I want to prove to myself I can run for 45 minutes in the rain when I'm already uncomfortable. And so by the end of that, like I felt so hyper productive. Like I said, like any other day that didn't have obstacles just felt cake. And it feels odd to say, and it's hard for a lot of people to understand until you have, allowed the world to try you multiple times. But man, like if you embrace obstacles, you are going to gain so much confidence from just rather than pushing against them. Like if it's some things are just gonna happen, so you're better off just biting the bullet, getting them over with. If you embrace that obstacle, the next time something happens without an obstacle, you're gonna breeze right through it. And it just makes you so much more powerful in your life.
It's perspective when it comes down to it, right? it's like, hey, is this thing going to affect me to the point where then I can't have a good day, or I can't be happy, or I can't show up in my fullness to the people that I love, right? It's like, it's a choice. And then it's a matter of perspective that then kind of it embodies what we said before about, okay, what's next? What do I got to do to handle it?
Mm-hmm.
And then when you adopt that enough, when there's nothing in the way, it almost feels unnatural because you're used to being uncomfortable. So then it's just like, all right,
Yeah.
I'm just at another level right now.
Exactly. And it's just like what you said, like, am I going to allow it to affect my day? That's 100% why I wrote that book, Speech Therapy. Like, all the instances in there are those moments that happen to you. I think the dedication in the front says this book is for anybody that has ever said, why the fuck is this happening to me? And it's all those little things that could completely derail your day, or you can deal with them, gain some confidence from it, and then the rest of your day, you just crush it.
Mm-hmm.
But I liked what you're saying about as far as writing being a tool in regards to depression and mental health, because, when I came out to, I think at the time I had 400,000 or so followers on Instagram. When I admitted to those 400,000 followers that I was dealing with suicidal thoughts, I thought for sure everyone was going to be like, oh, damn, this guy's weak. Why do I want to take his advice? Whereas it was the complete opposite, where people wanted to more so listen to what I had to say because I realized I wasn't behind this veil of acting like I was a person that had it all together. And for months afterwards, I'd tell my friends, I'd say, hey, once you've admitted to nearly 500,000 people you wanted to kill yourself, nothing bothers you. Like, no one can say anything that's going to make me feel embarrassed, because I just told 500,000 people that I wanted to kill myself, and I fucking meant it. And after that, like, I actually felt really confident for having just taken that, gorilla off my back, as they say. And so talking about like mental health, not only did talking about it help me a lot with my depression, but challenging myself daily. And I started getting into, like cryotherapy and a lot of, ice plunge stuff. And I do like these daily 5-minute cold showers and stuff that I thought was just hocus pocus, like bullshit. Like years ago, I was like, I don't get the point of taking a cold shower. Why do that? And now if I don't take a cold shower, I feel kind of like, I feel almost dirty. I'm like, that shower didn't count. That shower was pleasant. Like, that shower was like too easy. I need that shower to be something that almost tests me. And then you get out feeling confident. You're like, I just handled this 5 minutes of cold. This day's going to be easy.
Yeah, I love that, bro.
I know you and Eli are into those cold plunge things. I've seen you guys doing that before.
So I was reading his audiobook 2 weeks ago when I was out in LA, and it's fire. I'm so stoked for it to come out because it's more like a podcast style thing, which it turned out really organic and super transparent, kind of like we're talking about vulnerability right now. It was just like very real. So I love doing that. But yeah, he kind of got me hooked a little bit on it. I've done some like polar plunges back in the day when I was at like scout camp and things like that. And I've done a little bit of cryo courtesy of Eli, but then he got that cold plunge and was like, yo, you got to hit it. You got to hit it. And I was like, all right, fine. I did it. I think my body went into shock at first, but because I have at least I have a relationship with my breath to where I can calm my nervous system down. I even took a video of it. It was pretty funny. I was just like, I was shivering real intense, but I was able to get in there for like the full 6 minutes. And what a trip for sure. I mean, I'm so new. I also love warm showers. So for me, it's like extreme discomfort to then reap the benefits of, you feel blissed out afterwards because you get all that. What is it? The blood flow goes into the central organs and away from your extremities. Is that the vibe?
I'm not sure the exact science behind it, but I like what you said about like extreme discomfort and you get bliss. Isn't that just true for life though?
Amen.
Like, if it's like we're talking about, like if you're willing to make yourself uncomfortable physically or emotionally, whether it's telling someone you love them or going after a job or attempting something that other people would think is fucking crazy, if you're willing to be uncomfortable, you will hit that blissful state in life where you're going to look back and you're either going to have like this fuck you attitude, which is cool to have sometimes, and you're going to feel like you've accomplished a lot in spite of people telling you not, or you're just going to look back and be so glad that you fucking tried. Because I don't think there's anything worse than looking back and wishing you had done something. Like, to me, that's the only kind of regret that ever gets to me, is feeling like I had an opportunity or I kind of, took a risk a little too safe, I look back and go, damn, I should have just gone all in. And even the ones that have blown up in my face, you look back and go, hey, but I know there's no what if, there's no limbo about it. I know what happened. And I think all that kind of stuff, when you're talking about mental health, I mean, the more you do that, the more confidence you get, the less things bother you, and just the better you start feeling about every decision you make in your life. You don't sit there and dwell on them. You don't ruminate on them. And it's that rumination that just destroys people.
Yeah. You mean in reference to like dwelling on stuff?
Just everything, like dwelling on the things you wish you would have done or the things you wish you would have done differently. That's the kind of stuff, as far as that, I think crushes me. And I know a lot of people deal with that too, where you replay scenarios that just you cannot change at this point. So in that scenario, if you just would have gone all in, it's going to help you move past it and move on and be like, okay, I can move on. I did what I wanted to do. There's nothing left on the table. And, then now it's just the next step in life.
Yeah. Amen. You know what's cool? When you were saying that kind of fuck you mentality, I found it really beneficial to kind of adopt that towards my self-doubt. And sometimes I tell people that and they're like, wait, what? You tell yourself fuck you? Or like you call yourself all these names and say things to you? And I've done it on stage a lot. I was talking about it in a previous podcast I did about kind of how I perform at a high level consistently and some of the techniques that I've found to be helpful. And one of them is to kind of talk shit to myself. And I really have found that, even having not toured for the last 1.5 to 2 years because of everything going on, I find myself kind of, whether it's working out, whether it's, putting the things off and procrastinating, or whether it's just feeling that self-doubt of like, I'm not good enough to like, share my truth, to speak my voice, to create music, all these things. I kind of embody that now almost more readily than just on stage. I just do it now normally on a day-to-day basis where I kind of talk shit to myself. And I think a lot of people kind of take that perspective of saying fuck you and think that you're saying it to other people, which is fine if you feel like that's necessary to be like an embodiment of and reflect it out. But like, I really feel like it's more potent when we reflect it inward and just kind of like call that like the inner troll we have inside that is just like the critic, the doubter.
Well, I believe a lot of people refer to it as your bitch voice.
The bitch voice. I love it.
Maybe I'm too good at talking shit to myself, because when I talk shit to myself, I'm not getting anything done. But I fully embrace that. What helps me is just, like I said, I hate the feeling of regretting something more than anything. And so whenever like I'm tempted to quit something early, I know 10 minutes later I'm gonna regret quitting. I know I will. Like if it's like short changing myself on a workout, or cashing in on a project and being like, oh, that's good enough, I know that nagging regret of knowing I could have done better will drive me nuts. And so I don't so much talk shit on myself as just I'm aware that the feeling afterwards is not worth taking it easy. It's not for me.
Yeah, I feel you. I guess also to be like, to act and speak with more clarity on it. I guess it's more like talking shit to myself rather than on myself, because I feel like a lot of us, like I have a few friends in my life who will say things and I kind of remind them like, hey, stop talking crap about yourself, because like, we can all be our own worst critic, but if we don't change if we don't change the internal dialogue, it's going to be hard to manifest the things we actually want, because we're just subconsciously projecting the things that we don't like about ourselves by speaking them out. So I just like feel, just to clarify a little bit, that talking shit to myself on stage and in life, sometimes it is different, and it's not like I'm wallowing in my sorrow, which I feel like a lot of people, if you're listening, like, don't talk shit to yourself to the point where you beat yourself up and are just like, putting yourself in a state of depression. Use it as a tool to reframe your experience, like you were talking earlier, how you're making that shift and that pivot to then meet the obstacles kind of as opportunities, and then persevere through them, because it kind of can turn into like a little bit of extra juice. And maybe this is like more of a masculine perspective, because I have a lot of women who listen to this too, and they might not operate from the same mindset of like wanting to talk shit about themselves. But I still think on a human level, no matter what, we can all adopt this to help us persevere through challenging obstacles, right? Because I mean,
I agree. It's more so, tough love as opposed to just straight shit talk, where you're not afraid to give it to yourself straight. you don't sugarcoat your own inner dialogue. Like you understand that sometimes you need a kick in the ass. You need to be a bit of a drill sergeant to yourself to keep yourself moving forward. I totally understand it. Again, I just think I'm too good at talking shit, so I just easily go down the hole. I go down the hole and just beat myself up too well.
Yeah, dude, you're like mad experience. You're like a seasoned veteran at this point.
I'm like, this is just not good, man. I'm roasting myself for no reason.
It's so funny. Just going back a little bit to talk about writing and speaking, when you said that you were in that depressed period where you shared to your 500,000 followers that you were thinking about killing yourself, you had talked about how writing, right? Like you wrote that in a social media post, correct?
Yeah, I did. I wrote a big long post kind of addressing to people why I've been absent. Because I told people, I basically posted and said, listen, I'm going through some mental health issues, and mental health is a motherfucker. And the longer I delay this, it's just going to prolong how long I suffer. So I'm going to take some time off Instagram. I know a lot of you, followed me for a while, but my life is not as happy as it appears to be, and I'm going to take some time off. So I took some time off, and I received more DMs, more messages, more outreach than I ever have. I was just blown away at the amount of people that reached out to me. And I remember I was at a hotel in Beverly Hills at the time, just laying in bed, just reading these messages of people that were supporting me before I deleted the app off my phone. And I just felt like, damn, like that was the right move. I feel like I admitted my struggle. It was very well received, and I don't feel weaker for doing it. And then I took my time off. And then when I came back, I was very honest, said, listen, I just feel like I need to address what really has been going on with me. It's not just me, being fed up with my traveling or being fed up with, going out all the time. Like I really have been in this dark hole. And I talked about, the fact that I had, suicidal thoughts and stuff. And I was hitting these really dark points in my life. And I wrote that in a long post. And then I followed up with another post, or I might have done the other post before, where it was on my 31st birthday. I posted like 31 things I'd learned in my 31 years of life, where I went back to all the things I'd struggled with and tried to write a really one-liner, succinct lesson I learned from that. And that goes back to what we were talking about, where I used to love everything bad that happened to me because I could turn it into something. And I kind of forced myself to do that again with my 31 lessons in my 31 years. And it's something that I've continued doing every year since, where on my birthday, I post a list of what I've learned, for 35 lessons for 35 years. And I just kept doing that every year. And so when I say I wrote about it or wrote to help deal with that depression, like that's literally what I did. I wrote a lot about it. I wrote about it in like a newsletter. I wrote about it in my new book. I have chapters where I talk about how I help deal with my depression. I really leaned into the writing as something to help me make sense of it, but also just to kind of, again, show that connectiveness that we all have.
Yeah, right. I'm thinking about it in regards to like, a lot of people don't necessarily have a social media account where they have a lot of followers, even though it's highly sought after now based upon where we put value in society. But you don't need to have a ton of followers to have this experience, right? Like
journal that shit, journal that, journal. Like journaling, again, is something that I grew up being told I should journal as part of my Mormon upbringing. And so when I got older, it was one of those things I put aside again, where I was like, no, that reminds me too much of my religious background as a kid. And I hated that shit. So like I pushed away from stuff like journaling too. But journaling and just being able to take that mess out of your head is so incredibly helpful. A lot of writers do what they call morning pages. And you're supposed to, in the morning, just write every thought that comes through your head, no matter how positive, how negative. It's seriously writing stuff like, this coffee tastes like fucking garbage this morning. I hate the sound of my neighbor's dog barking at night. I slept like shit. Like anything negative, positive, you just write 3 pages. I think it's 3 you're supposed to do. You just write 3 pages to get all that crap out of your head. And then you sit back before you're going to actually write whatever project you really need to write. And adopting that has been difficult. For one, it's hard to get yourself to do that every morning. But the mornings you do it versus the mornings you don't do it, you will notice a profound difference in just how well your mind fires, how quickly you can, get the concepts you want to do. And whether you're a writer or not, if you kind of force yourself to do that in the morning, just the act of like writing your negative thoughts out kind of takes power away from them, because like you don't sit and dwell on them anymore. You've already put it on paper. You've already, it's like venting to a friend. Like it feels really good to vent to a friend. There's just shit you have to say to somebody, but you realize as soon as you say it, you go, I feel better. You don't have to have a friend to do that. You can do that with yourself with, morning pages and journaling.
Yeah, it's like a detox.
100% what it is. It's absolutely detoxing.
And then it sounds like, I mean, I relate it to meditation because I'm a big meditator, but I feel like that
I can tell by your background. You definitely are.
Yeah, you know how it is. I have had similar experiences in dealing with my thoughts through meditating. So where I'm able to see them. And I've also experienced it through writing as well, where putting them out there does something to us that makes us not associate our being with those thoughts. And I think we fall into the trap way too often thinking that our thoughts are real and they define us. And I think the more things we have in our life, whether it's writing, whether it's speaking to a friend, whether it's creating music or meditating, the more tools and techniques we have to cause this self-reflection, which I, again, go towards meditation because that's where I've experienced it most of my life. It empowers us to the point where we kind of become, I wrote my book called You Are the Rock Star for a reason, to empower people. When you do that, I think you step into the inner rock star that is yourself, your higher self, rock star, whatever you want to consider it. You supercharge your being, realizing that shit doesn't define you. And so whether you have the 500,000 followers, whether you have 5 followers, whether you have like a ton of friends or you have one friend, just to practice observing and getting it out from within is something that I think can bring us out from really dark places. And it's so necessary.
It's exactly what you said. It's detoxing. Any athlete or anyone that's, obsessed with fitness knows the importance of detoxing, knows the importance of cleansing. And it's kind of odd now that I think about it, how popular people will gravitate towards these juice cleanses or these ideas of cleansing their body. But like a lot of us don't do it with our mind, which is by far the most paramount part of what we have to look after in our body, is our mind and our mental clarity. And I think saying it is detoxing is probably the perfect way to describe it. You have to just get it out in order to start refilling the tank with clean water.
I love that. Love that so much. Shifting a little bit, but still on the topic of social media, I feel like a lot of times we have that FOMO where like we fear missing out on whatever I don't know what it is. It's like the carrot in front of the horse thing. We fear missing out on all the epic adventures and travels and things that people are sharing as their highlight reel on social media. And you reframed the acronym FOMO in a recent post. And I was just wondering if you could unpack that a little bit.
Absolutely. I think FOMO is probably the biggest thing plaguing our generation now, as far as anxiety and depression is concerned. There are probably people that will debate me in that, but I truly believe that FOMO and feeling that we're being left out from, like you said, all these experiences is what's doing people the most harm. If you think about, being a teenager in the 1950s, you had no idea what your friends were doing that weekend. You didn't know what random strangers were doing. You were focused on your own life. And even when I grew up, I remember going to high school. MySpace wasn't, invented yet. I didn't know what kids were doing. And I would have just these blissfully awesome Saturdays where I was just home by myself, watching a movie with my dad, not scrolling or seeing what I'm missing out on. And I felt just great. And we've lost that ability to do that. I think it truly is kind of lost for good, unless you're willing to just completely, disconnect from every form of social media there is. Even today, I find myself FOMOing on things. I find myself, especially during 2020, 2021, looking at people who are still living this lifestyle. It's like, well, I didn't even know this lifestyle was still attainable. Look at these people still doing it. And the most beneficial thing for me has been kind of that reframing of it, which is, beneficial with dealing with everything, FOMO or not, is how we can reframe our narrative with it. And I reframed it, like you said, instead of fear of missing out, to focus on moving on. Meaning, what can you do to just keep moving forward in life and move on from whatever it is at that point that has you feeling like you're missing out? And I found a lot of benefit in disconnecting from social media when I want to level up in life, whether it's like for professionally, mentally, or my career, or like physically when I want to move across the country or something. If I disconnect and I focus on moving on, I focus on moving to this next level in my life, when I do get back on social media, I'll look at the things that were causing me FOMO and they don't bother me anymore. Because I'm like, oh, I'm at this different level now where I'm either in the place I wanted to be or I'm in a place beyond what I wanted to be. And so the little things that used to drive me nuts, like seeing people out at a bar without you or seeing people having brunch with the girls without you, if you take the time to get into a place in life that's more rewarding than that act, you're going to look at that stuff and it's not even going to bother you to not be a part of it anymore. And I feel like my life is far more rewarding now when I focus on my next book, my next writing project, as opposed to missing out on going on a boys trip to Colorado with my buddies, which used to drive me nuts years ago. But I focused on moving to this different level to where I still love my friends. Obviously, I still want to see them, but my goals are so much loftier than those experiences. I'll still cherish those experiences when I have them, but I've moved on to this different level to where that stuff doesn't eat me up. It's just like this cool reward when it does happen.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I feel like that happens more when we develop a positive relationship with ourselves, because
100%.
because if we don't take the time to kind of develop inward, then the external stuff is going to, it's going to be fleeting. We're going to constantly feel like we're reaching for stuff that doesn't exist. And that's why I also am like, again, not to bring it back to meditation again, but like, that's where I've found I do the work. And I know people experience that through writing and working out and running and doing all the things. But, I don't really experience FOMO in my life. And I think that's because I've been doing yoga and meditating for like 10 years. I used to, but once I started being okay with where I was, with who I was, I started making choices that were like, well, do I want to show up? Well, yes or no. And if it was an in between, I sat with it a little more until it was a clear yes or no. But before that, I would just kind of go wherever the wind blew me.
That's fucking awesome. It's good. You moved on to that stage where, like I said, they're cool experiences to have, but you don't feel torn when you're left out of one of those.
Right. And kind of like what you said, when your goals and like, it's almost like your vision or your dreams, whatever you want to consider it, when they become higher and bigger,
yes.
It requires more attention, more energy, and different actions. And then in a way, it makes you appreciate the stuff even more with people. It's not that you don't love them. I have friends in my life. I have friends in my life I wish I got to see all the time because I live in Nashville now and they're in LA. But now when I see them, I feel as though I show up in a more full sense because I'm more grateful and I'm happy.
Present.
Yeah, exactly. Very present. And then my goals in life are loftier, like you said, being here. So I get to kind of focus on my career. And that's kind of what happens, I think, when we all go through the evolution, as we will, if we choose to, we start to kind of align ourselves with like, hey, I got to take care of me first so that I can show up in a more full capacity the way that I want to. You know what I mean?
And that's so important in every relationship with your life. Friendships, romantic relationships, if you have a child, if you don't invest in yourself first, you're doing everyone else in your life a disservice because you're not showing up for them in the way that they deserve. You're either carrying this remorse or you're carrying resentment or you're carrying all these other feelings because you're neglecting yourself. And then you start outwardly blaming your children for the reason why your life isn't where you want it to be, or you blame your friends for holding you back, or you blame your job for the reason you're unhappy. But really you're unhappy or you're not fulfilled because you have put those things at a higher importance than fulfilling whatever it is that you in life really want to seek. And it's like you said, you moved out there, you focused on your career, and now you're in a completely different realm. And when you do show up for those people, like they'll notice too. I had a buddy just last week say to me, we were out in Vegas, I was out there doing some work, and we were at a bar grabbing a beer after, and he said to me, he's like, Kyle, it's really good to be here with you and not have you on your laptop. Because I usually always have my laptop, my phone with me because I'm always trying to multitask. And I remember just thinking like, damn, he's right, this does feel really good. I can't remember the last time I just sat with a friend and just focused on my conversation and what we were doing instead of checking my phone or seeing what else was going on in the world outside of where I was.
Right. I mean, when you think about it, it's about what's important. And something happens when you start to up level and set your goals at a higher, whether it's a frequency or just larger in general, you start to kind of be able to separate slightly. And I understand the idea of constantly working, because I do embody that, where it's just like you're constantly going, especially with our band, we're just like nonstop. But I do feel like you get more clear and you realize what's actually important to you, to where when you're with certain people that are very meaningful for you in your life, then you separate and you're like, hey, I'm not going to be on my phone or my laptop here because this relationship means a lot to me. And that is, in a way, at least my interpretation of showing up in a more full capacity.
Absolutely. And then you're actually going to leave in a more full capacity, because that time you have with that person is going to replenish you. It's going to refill you, and you're going to go back to work or go back to whatever you were doing more energized, because you allowed yourself to refill your tank with a genuine experience with someone else.
Right.
And it's just, and then you work your ass off, then you get tired from work again, and then you go spend genuine time with people and you refill your tank. And it's just this cool reciprocal thing you can continue to do. And that's the reason why you look at so many people like you who have put meditation as a paramount thing in their life, or people that can really separate family and work time. The reason they're able to have longevity and achieve such things in life is because they have this reciprocal relationship where they work, they put it aside, refill their tank, work again, and they're not just running on fumes. They're not half-assing everything in their life because they're neglecting their self.
Right. And it's hard to not be half-assed if we're on our phone constantly. And I mean, it's perfect, right?
You're half-assed no matter what. You are half-assed. I don't care who you are. You can't have a good dinner with your friend as good as it could be if you're checking Instagram. You just won't. I used to love when my phone died, because it forced me to engage in things. And so sometimes like when I was going out to bars a lot, I wouldn't charge my phone on purpose, because like I didn't have the self-control. But if my phone died, it's like, okay, now I'm forced to pay attention to everything around me. And it was just like one of those dumb little tricks I would play on myself to kind of force myself to be more in the moment. I was like, okay, I got enough battery to get my Uber there, and then I'm going to let it die, and I'm going to see where the night takes me.
It's like guided presence in a way. You're like guiding your focus and your presence to like, you have to be present here. I love that.
And I'm still bad at it. There's still times when I check my phone. I shouldn't be checking my phone. It's like, I mean, it's everything in life. It's a work in progress, but being aware of it and then having the moments that are so rewarding that you don't want to check your phone because you realize how much better it is being present in a conversation. Those are going to help you continue with that healthy habit.
Yeah, 100. And that's so invaluable right now as we continue to get more and more evolved technology. If we don't, if we don't evolve this and this, then the technology is going to be the same thing as like, cool, we have this awesome technology and we can use it to kill people or we can use it to empower people. It's your choice. This is how it's used.
Yeah, this metaverse shit's going to get fucking weird.
It's definitely going to get wild for sure.
It's going to get bad. I just know it.
So are you, I want to ask, are you invested in the metaverse and learning about
it? Not at all. I mean, I have some crypto holdings and stuff because I do feel like there's a lot of positive things with DeFi finance and stuff. But as far as the metaverse, I haven't made a decision as to whether or not I want to try and profit on it, because like sometimes you just feel dirty. But at the same time, it's like if you know what's happening, you're kind of dumb not to try and, you know, take advantage of it in an extent if you have an opportunity to invest in some things. But yeah, as of right now, I'm not in anything because I don't know enough about it. I think I don't have the right group of people around me that are really about it. I think if I had a different circle of friends or business acquaintances that were really more techie, I likely would have some stuff going on with it. But I don't want to get involved in it myself. I mean, I had an Oculus headset that was given to me as a gift, and I put it on once for about a minute, and it made me feel dizzy, and I was like, this is dumb. And other than that, I haven't like engaged with VR at all.
Fair. I'm kind of with you on that. I haven't explored VR too much. We did put a headset on a buddy of mine and put him in this haunted, and he was screaming bloody murder because these zombies were jumping out at him while he was on this like train car. I thought it was mad funny, and I have been to like a VR bar in California for some friend's birthday, which there was some cool stuff, and I can see how it's kind of something that could be very cool, or it could be something that's like, if you're not careful, that's like where you now think is reality in a way. and just like trying to find the balance?
I think it's going to be, like you said, a balance. Like social media has a lot of good things about it and a lot of bad things about it.
Totally.
So I'm sure at some point I'll find a way to engage in the metaverse, but it's going to have to be that balance where you have enough real life to understand what's fake and what's not. I fear a lot of people are going to become way too consumed with it the way you have with social media. If you start taking your self-validation from something like that, you're just asking for a heartbreak and you're asking for a breakdown.
100, making it even more important to practice tools like we're talking about, writing in the morning or at night and meditating, running, working out. Point where like you're talking shit to yourself sometimes. It's cool.
Yeah, real world feelings, like actually feel what it's like to do a push-up instead of watch someone do it on VR.
you can't simulate. You can't simulate running a bunch of miles or doing push-ups or pull-ups or.
You actually have to run those damn miles. Same thing with mental health. You actually have to do the work.
You got to do the work, and that's what could be really cool if there's all of a sudden spaces, which there probably will be, that you can go meditate in like the Himalayas. And I would be down for that. I'm totally game for that.
Yeah, I think there'll be a shift for the exact opposite. You see, like, when quarantine hit, you saw a lot of people starting to take advantage of their local parks and just all the outdoor facilities that they neglected for years because they had other stuff to distract them. I think when the metaverse hits, you're going to see a big surge of polar opposite experiences, like you're saying, remote Himalayan meditation retreats. There's going to be a big resurgence in hunting and farming and people wanting to live a life that's remote.
You're almost already seeing that with like, I've seen just like the mass exodus from certain states and just like kind of like more of the passion of like, hey, I want to learn about what I'm putting in my body when it comes to food. And like, I want to have control over my food supply and stuff like that. I've had a lot of friends who have started to get more into that, into living communities and how to grow fruits, vegetables, and like have a farm. And I
am one of those people.
Are you? Oh, I love it.
I started eating like all organic. I think I've drank alcohol like 3 times in the past 4 months, where I used to, drink every day. I've been super open. I actually went skeet shooting with some old Cuban dudes last week here in Miami when I was out here to get like my gun arm back, because I want to start duck hunting and getting involved in a lot of that, getting some food for myself and being more connected with where it comes from.
Word. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's something to be said about getting out into the woods, whether it's, however you get your hands dirty in the dirt or you're hiking or whatever it is. It's definitely grounding and brings us back to, which is so important.
I read somewhere, I can't remember where it was, so don't quote me on this, that the human body was meant to walk 12 miles a day. And so like you thrive best when you're active, because that's how your body was designed, because it was designed for that hunter-gatherer lifestyle. Is we adapted to thrive off that. So like what you're saying, getting out and hiking and stuff, you're going to optimally perform in all areas by doing that.
Right. And it affects your mental health, because that
100%.
This is one thing I learned a lot in yoga practice. I like this kind of yoga called Strala, which is like Tai Chi and Qigong mixed with like yoga movements. But they start talking about, these are the people who lead Strala, Mike and Tara Stiles. They, your body and your mind aren't actually two different things, and how people separate them and think that they're two. But actually, when we work out one, the other one is essentially connected. So when you're working out your body, that's why you have a lot more mental benefits and you feel more energized, you're less depressed. And I think it's really important to note, because like we can do all the meditation we want to, but we got a body and you got to move it. And the more that we move it in different forms, I think it like affects our mental health in a positive way. One's feeling depressed and listening to this, it doesn't have to be something too crazy, like you can get out and walk. You can get out and like just move.
You got to move. There's actually, I remember times when I was living in New York and I'd be riding in my apartment, I would actually go down to my gym and just do like 20 minutes on the elliptical. And I would almost every time without fail overcome writer's block.
Wow.
Like just
20.
And I realized how powerful it was for me that I would write until I couldn't. I was like, all right, I'm going to go really hard 20 minutes on the elliptical. And I would almost always get over my writer's block. In fact, thinking about it right now, I can't think of a time I have not been able to defeat writer's block by working out.
No way. That's so good to know.
And once I did it, I was writing my new book. I'd write until 11 p.m. and I'd be like, all right, I'm going to go on a walk at, middle of the night, and I'll come back and write for another hour. It's always helped me. And I didn't realize that until probably, 4 or 5 years ago, but it without fail, it works every time for me.
I love that. And then where can people pick up your book?
Speech therapy is available on Amazon. I know a lot of people have a disdain for Amazon, but as a self-published author, it's the best route for me. And so Amazon, if you just search the title, you'll find it there.
Cool. And then is that where all your books are?
All my books are on Amazon. They're all available on Amazon. My fucking history book is also available on Barnes and Noble.
When you say it like that, it sounds hilarious.
Yeah, it's a great title, fucking history. That's available everywhere. That one went through a major publisher. You can buy that at like any independent bookstore. I quite often like walk into Barnes and Nobles and just sign the ones they have on the shelf and then leave them and walk out. So that book's pretty widely available.
Cool. Oh, I love that so much. Yeah. I can't wait to dive into a copy. I know it's in the mail, and I got one for you. I'm going to send you both of mine that are behind me.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Yeah. I actually checked the Amazon tracking, and it said it was going to be delivered by 6:45 today for you.
That is hilarious. I love it. Well, it'll be there when I get back.
Perfect.
But dude, maybe we should do another one of these and make Woody and the Captain a thing. So
I'd be super down. This would be fun. You're actually the second podcast I've ever done.
Really? No way.
I had like this real apprehension to podcasts forever until my publisher made me do one last year for the release of fucking history. And I did one with this guy named Christopher Ryan. He's a PhD in like human studies. And I enjoyed the hell out of it. I remember getting off and telling my girlfriend, like, why have I been so against those? Like, that was a fucking dope 2-hour conversation. And then I told myself I was going to do more podcasts, and then I stopped. And I just found excuses to not do them again. But then when I saw you posted about ideas for your podcast, I was like, fuck it. This guy seems like a like-minded individual. I'll break my podcast chair for the second time after a year and a half, and I'll do one with this guy as well.
Dude, I am humbled and honored. So thank you. Thank you for asking. I appreciate it. This has been a fun experience. Just the podcast for me in general, because I've been learning the ins and outs of the podcast world and helping to like share some of the stuff that I wrote about. But my intention in starting this was just to have conversations exactly like we had, higher consciousness, talking about tools and techniques that we can uplift ourselves. And I know everyone goes through the ups and downs. It's part of being human. I think, we have heightened experiences that are ecstatic, and sometimes we're depressed. And I think it's more a matter of learning the tools that we can adopt and kind of implement so that we can adapt with the changing environments and the changing feelings, realizing they're not who we are, so that this way we can keep persevering and, keep going, because that's what it's all about. It's just showing up each day and then getting better.
Yeah. And showing up and hoping your dog doesn't shit on your rug the night before. Because then every day is better. And like, I like what you just said, learning the tools, but also I think it's important to know that learning is just part of it. Like, you're always going to be learning. I don't think you ever get to a place where you're completely immune to mental health breakdowns, or you're immune to like the feelings that you don't want to feel. Like, there's going to be things that are going to trigger you. They won't trigger you as badly. They might not trigger you the same way. You'll get to a point you can quickly shake stuff off, and you will get to a point with some things won't bother you altogether. But it's constantly just, you have to understand that you're going to have hiccups. Shit's going to knock you off your horse. And you just, like you said, you just got to go again.
I hope you enjoyed that. I really did. And again, you can check out Kyle's book, aka The Captain. You can check his books out on Amazon. You should give him a follow. Check him out on Instagram and Twitter. He's always posting fire content. As always, we're going to end this with 3 breaths. So right where you're at, gently close your eyes. Take a nice big breath in from your nose. Slower breath out from your mouth. Big breath in from your nose. Fill on up. Slower breath out from your mouth. Just relax your shoulders. Biggest breath in you can here. Fill on up with air. And then the slowest exhale you can from your mouth, completely surrender and relax. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes. Shout out to Presence, the sponsor of this show. It's an app for meditation and mindfulness in your daily life. I have a link below if you're interested with a discount code, or just reach out to me and I can connect you. Love you all. Thank you again for taking the time to be here and enjoy Woody and the Captain. And maybe we'll have another one of those coming up, because that was awesome. So until next week, keep rocking. I'll see you soon. Peace.